Hey guys, welcome to this next episode of the Strong Dynamic podcast. As mentioned in the intro, my guest today is none other than two-time British light middleweight champion, two-time Commonwealth light middleweight champion, Irish light middleweight champion, and European light middleweight champion, Jamie Moore. Welcome on, pal.
Are you mate, okay?
Yeah, good time, mate. Thank you very much for your time. I really appreciate it, pal.
No worries.
Yeah, so how's things with you at the... Obviously, we're almost out of lockdown and all that stuff. Things are almost back to normal, mate. But how have things been for you and your family? All right, or has it been tough for you all?
Well, it was a bit strange early on, but to be honest, I quite enjoyed it. They're not selling down. Yeah, we've been that busy with work and stuff over the last 2 or 3 years.
Yeah.
Sort of getting used to the lockdown for the first week or so was the hardest part, but once sort of all that pressure, my mind's doing clockwork all the time. It's just starting again now because of all the potential fights coming up and game plans and setting out stuff. So my mind's sort of doing 100 miles an hour all the time. Yeah. So after the first week, then I absolutely loved it. I've got to be honest with you. It was a time what we got to spend a bit of time together as a family, which my kids are 15 and 13. So since they go to, when they go to high school, you sort of lose them a little bit at first because they want to be out with their mates. They got a little bit more of independence and stuff. And my lad, for instance, used to go with me to everywhere I went, every boxing show, every when I was working for Sky, he used to come and sit inside of me and do all the shows for Sky. So all of a sudden, he's 11 years old then, and he doesn't really want to come and do all that sort of stuff. So it's he was gutting for me, but I understand you've got to give him a bit of leeway and let him sort of find their own way. And what was nice was in lockdown, you had your hour a day exercise. Dad, do you want to go for a run? Dad, do you want to come for a bike ride? So I'd not been on a bike ride with him for 4 or 5 years. So it was really nice to sort of revisit them nice stuff, and everyone sat down as a family together and watch a film, and that it was. So obviously, it was horrendous what had happened to people, and there was so many bad things what had happened, and you see so many people grieving for the loved ones who they'd lost, and I can't imagine what it must have felt like. But from my own personal experience of it was really nice. I enjoyed it.
Yeah. I mean, that's it. That's the thing for a lot of people, us included. We were the same, mate. It gave us a lot more time together because normally, like you say, it's, two of my kids are teenagers now, and they're exactly the same. My daughter's a little bit more clingy than my son, but he's the same. He's just in uniform, off online with his mates and all that kind of stuff. He just, he's just not cool enough for him anymore. I don't think, mate.
Yeah, that's one of the things what me and my missus are always complaining about. My daughter's on FaceTime all the time with her mates. My son's on his PlayStation on the headset with his mates. Mm-hmm. But I'll tell you what, that was a frigging godsend in lockdown for him, because it was the only way that they kept any sort of relationship going with their friends from school. So they have got the downsides, but that was definitely a positive for us.
Yeah, definitely, mate. So if it's all right with you, mate, we'll start from like your childhood pretty much. I always ask the lads that come on, or whoever comes on, just give us a bit of background about yourself. What were you like as a kid? Were you a good lad, bit of a tearaway? How were things for you?
Do you know what? I wouldn't say I was a bad lad in that sense. I think of my mum and dad was great. Growing up, so I was born in Astley, and then I think when I was 2, we moved up to Walkden, and then I've lived in Walkden ever since. So we moved up into a council house up here, and then I lived with my mum and dad until I was 23. I stayed at home. I turned pro at 20. I still lived at home until I was 23. I've been with my missus, Colleen, since I was 17, and I've known her since I was 10. So my mum and my wife's mum used to work together at the cinema in Walkden, and I knew Colleen. She's 2 years older than me. We'd known each other since we was kids, and then we went out as a group. Loads of us went out together one night when I was 17. And we ended up having a bit of a kiss and stuff, and then that was it. We've been together ever since.
Yeah.
So I lived with my mum and dad still until I was 23. Kareem was sort of living with us a little bit and living at home back and forward. And then basically my mum and dad my mum came home from work one day and said, listen, we're moving to Bolton. So I said, you can piss off, I'm not moving to Bolton. She went, I know. She went, we're moving to Bolton. You need to get somewhere to fucking live. So I was like, all right, okay, sound. So me and Colleen bought my house, what I grew up in.
Right.
So
no way.
I bought that. That was in February 2003, where, you know, I didn't really know which direction my career was going in. I'd lost my first fight about maybe, you know, probably 2 years before. I was just we were scraping by, just on getting, you know, I was fighting, and I was on a bit of a sponsorship with this company who was looking after me. And then 2 months after we bought, you know, we got our first mortgage, 2 months later, my life changed forever. I got a call 5 days notice to fight for the British title, and that changed my life forever.
Yeah, nice. So how far into your career was that, mate? How long had you actually been pro then?
I turned pro the end of 99,
and
then that was till 2003. Right. So it was just over 3 years in, and I was 24, and my record going in was 16-1. And up until I'd lost my first fight in year 2000, everyone was sort of raving, or it might be 2001, everyone was sort of going, you know, talking about me as like a big prospect, and I was going to do things. And then for that next sort of 18 months to 2 years before I came in at short notice, people was talking about me as like, oh, you know, he's a bit of an hype job. And as soon as someone stood up against him, he didn't have what it took to come through it. So I took all that on board.
Yeah.
Because my big thing, and I say this to the lads who I train now, criticism's a good thing, because you can learn from it. You know, people will pull out your faults or the mistakes you make. Sometimes they put it under a magnifying glass and make it sound worse than it is. But even that's a positive, because if you're lacking in stamina, but it's not too bad, but you could improve your fitness, and then someone starts pulling your pants down and going to town on you about it, and it hurts your feelings. You know, that's one way of somebody highlighting and giving you the opportunity to improve yourself as a fighter. So you're going away and you on it. So I always say, don't think criticism is bad. It's not, as long as you take it in the right context and learn from it.
And I think that's the thing in it, especially like, I mean, Christ, it's probably even more prevalent nowadays, like with obviously social media and everything, is probably a lot of you young lads you get coming through probably would struggle with it naturally, wouldn't they? You know, because they see these, you know, negative comments about themselves, and it probably would get in their heads and things like that. And I'd understand it doing, but, you know, like you said, it's fuel as well, though, I suppose, isn't it?
Social media's got a lot to answer for, in terms of, you know, we've got all this, we're going through this generation now of snowflakes where everyone's offended by everything.
Yeah.
I think that's the sort of knock-on effect of social media. And you've got all these people hiding behind the phone or the keyboard. You're giving people a voice, basically. You know, without social media, you'd have never had it. But I've got a feeling that in the long run, it'll come full circle, that. And, you know, our kids, they've sort of lived with social media and they've grown. I think in the long run, people will stop taking it literally, you know, as they, and they'll start to go, listen, it's only some dickhead talking on social media. Don't listen to it. Whereas at the moment, people are still of the mindset of before social media, and they're going, God, I can't believe he said that about me. You know, what have I done to deserve that? Whereas really, don't take it literally. It's not real. It's just social media.
Yeah, of course it is, mate. Yeah. So, right. So obviously, you know, brief chat about your shadow then. So you said you went about turning pro. You got your British title fight. Can you take us from there then? How did that go for you? Where did that then lead to after that? You know, did your career start to go even further on then, for those that don't know about you?
Yeah, I came in at 5 days notice. It was for the British and Commonwealth titles, and I won it big on points, over 12 rounds. And then, like I say, my life changed forever then, because I was fit enough and ready to take the opportunity. You know, when them, I remember I didn't hesitate to take the fight because I thought this opportunity might never come again.
Absolutely.
And luckily enough, I was in a position to take it and was fit enough, and I won it handily. And then the year after, I boxed the same guy again. I'd lost my Commonwealth title fight in the fight before with a hip injury. I just got married. We'd had our first son. So, Colleen was pregnant at this point in time. So I was under a lot of pressure. Mm-hmm. And then I got disqualified against a guy who had beat for the British title for hitting on the break, which then led me to a third fight with him just after my son was born. Mm-hmm. And that was the first time I was involved in Fight of the Year. So that was really the point in time where my career really sort of ignited, because even after the first loss and people were talking about me being overhyped, then I'd sort of redeemed myself a little bit with winning the British title. But then I'd come off 2 losses, even though they wasn't really legitimate losses in that sense, because one was an injury loss and then one was a disqualification. Yeah. But if I'd have lost the third fight with Michael Jones, the guy who had got disqualified against, then where do you go from there? You know, I would have been 25, nearly 26. Just been married, my first baby's been born, and I'm coming off 3 losses. I think people would have sort of wrote me off then, and it would have been really tough for me to get back into winning ways and revive my career. So it was a great fight. It was the first time I was involved in Fight of the Year, and that was sort of what set the precedent then for me as sort of a bit of a character in British boxing. Was always, you know, I got a reputation then for being involved in good fights and being an exciting fighter. And for the next 5 years, then before I retired, I was involved in Fight of the Year 3 times.
Nice. So what's your next?
Yeah, well, that's it. No one's ever done that. They're trophies, actually.
Nice.
That's
the thing, mate. No one can take those away from you, can they?
That's it. That's my wall of shame. So, yeah, and you know, people talk about it all the time. Say, "Oh, you know, do you not wish you got a world title shot?" Because a world title shot evaded me. I never got one. By the time I was in an eliminator for it, it was the back end of my career, really. I'd been in a lot of hard fights, and it was too late in the day for me. Yeah. But I always say I wouldn't change anything about my career, because, you know, I didn't earn a lot of money. There wasn't the same money in boxing when I was fighting as there is now. Yeah. Maybe 2 or 3 years later, then I would have done really well out of it. But, you know, I've left a bit of a mark in British boxing, and I'm obsessed with boxing. I always have been since I was a kid. Mm-hmm. So when I think back when I was turning pro, I remember doing an interview actually with Manchester Evening News, and they said to me, you know, you're a new professional, you're turning pro, what do you want to achieve? And I think they always expect people going, you know, I want to be a world champion and blah, blah, blah. And I just said, as long as, you know, all my mates, we're all working class people, no one's got a lot of money, they're all buying tickets. And I said, if my mates can leave the show and turn around and go, you know what a top night that was, then I'll be happy with myself. So as long as the crowd are happy, then I'll be happy. And I retired as British, Commonwealth, European, Irish champion, and Fight of the Year 3 times. God, I can't complain about that. You know, I'm over the moon with that.
Yeah, awesome. So, how old were you then when you decided it was time to call it a day, pal?
So everyone has to have a brain scan every year just to make sure there's no stuff. And mine had changed the year before. So I had a letter off the Boxing Board of Control saying, your brain scan's changed, don't worry about it, there's no problems, but by law, we just have to inform you that there's been a slight change. It can be natural, so don't worry about it. And then it changed again the year after. And at that point in time, I'd just been involved in the 3rd Fight of the Year, what I was in. And to be honest, I probably fell out of love with fighting at the time. I was really struggling badly to make the weight, and I fell out of love with it. And as soon as I read that letter, I was fighting. I had a meeting with a specialist about my brain scan. I was fighting the week after. He sort of said to me, listen, he's right. You know, the Boxing Board of Control are right. It's not guaranteed that it's caused from boxing, but come on. let's be honest. You've been punched in the head for 20 years.
Yeah.
You've been involved in Fight of the Year 3 times. You've been in loads of tough fights.
Yeah.
It's most probably that it's caused from boxing. The longer you stay involved in boxing, the more likely it could be that you have problems later on in your life. So it won't be now, but it'll be later on. So my advice is get out of boxing as soon as you can. So that was a couple of weeks before my last fight, and I just retired after that. I said, you know what, it's not worth the risk. I had a 5-year-old and a 3-year-old, and I thought, I want to make sure I'm all right for them in, not just now. When my daughter's 25, 30, she's getting married, I want to be able to walk her down the aisle. Yeah. So, at the end of the day, there's so much more to life than boxing. And even though it is tough, and we all understand the dangers of boxing, but also you've got to be smart about it. You've got to be sensible. And I got out at the right time. There was a couple of times where I thought about coming back and fighting again, but glad that I stayed away from it, because once you get past that first couple of years, then you I always compare it to like Superman and Clark Kent. So like when you're a fighter, you feel indestructible, and it takes you a long time to come to terms with the fact that you're no longer that superhuman being who can do all these amazing things.
Yeah.
You gradually get back to being a normal person, and after a couple of years, I was back to being Clark Kent and quite enjoying it.
Yeah. I think the thing with that is as well that a lot of guys or girls, obviously, female boxers or anything would struggle with that one. They would struggle with making that decision. So, I mean, you've made it sound like it was a pretty easy decision to make. I think a lot would struggle to either not only make the decision, but stick by it and, like I said, and not be tempted to come at a retirement as well, wouldn't they?
Yeah, I think it is tough. I mean, I'm just sort of walking through with Tommy Coyle now. Tommy Coyle's fresh retired. And the big difference between me and him was I'd sort of fell out of love with boxing by the time I decided to retire. And I had a valid reason. Tommy's decided to retire because, he's got to think about his long-term health, because he's always involved in tough fights. But he still very much loves boxing and wants to still carry on. So it's much more difficult decision for him. But the big difference between me and Tommy is, and I'm using Tommy as these hundreds of fighters every year. I'm using Tommy because I know his story. But I retired and literally was like, what do I do now? I had nothing in place. My lifeline really was Sky Sports. Rang me up, asked me if I was interested in doing a bit of pundit work and stuff, and for the next sort of 3 or 4 years, that was me doing that.
Yeah,
I never in a million years imagined that I'd be a trainer. That just came about by accident when Steve Wood, who was my manager and managed Tommy Coyle, asked me if I'd help out training him for the Derry Matthews fight. I never had a plan to do it. I never even thought that I'd fit that mould, really.
Yeah.
And I just, over time, I've just gradually come to love doing it, and I couldn't think of anything better to do now.
Nice. So obviously, I mean, I briefly saw you the other week at your gym working out with a couple of your lads. But so how long is it you've been in? How long has the training been for you now? Then how long has it you've been a coach?
Well, I've been
officially
actually training somebody for 7 years, really. But there was just basically Tommy Coyle who we trained. There was a couple of lads who sort of come and went, and I trained them for a few months or maybe even a year at a time, coming and going. But it was only Tommy Coyle. And the plan was, as soon as Tommy retires, I was going to walk away from it, because I didn't really see that it had any mileage in it. Financially, definitely wasn't something that I was doing for money, because there wasn't a lot of money in it. Tommy was earning pretty decent money for himself, but you train, you get 10% of whatever the fighter's getting. So I'd had a conversation with Nige, and I basically said, once Tommy's knocked on the head, I'm just going to knock this on the head now. It's not for me. Probably try and keep doing a bit of the punditry work. And I was doing personal training in that gym, because me and Steve Wood set that gym up when I was still fighting in his place. He's got an engineering place, and I was just doing personal training out of there. So basically, I was just going to keep cracking on doing that. And what happened was, my old trainer, Oliver Harrison, got sick. He got cancer, and nobody knew about it. He didn't want anyone. He was a very private person, Oliver. He didn't want anyone to know he was poorly.
Yeah.
So he was pretty bad in hospital at first, and eventually he got out, and he was okay for a couple of years. He was on the mend, and then it came back and it had spread. But nobody knew what was going on. And what had happened was, he said to me, "Can you help out with Martin and Rocky while I'm in hospital until I get myself back on my feet?"
Yeah.
And unfortunately, he never got to the stage really where he was back well enough to coach the lads. So I took Martin and Rocky on in, I think it was around end of August, in the September about 2017, just to help Oliver out. And during that time, I think it was in the October then, I got a phone call from Carl Frampton saying, are you still involved in the training? And I said, well, yeah, I still train Tommy Coyle. And to be honest with you, between me and you, I've got Martin Money and Rocky Fielding at the gym in a minute. And he said, listen, I'm looking for a new trainer. Just wondering if I could come over and see how it'd work and whether we sort of gel together. Mm-hmm. So Carl came. And then on the back of that, Stephen Ward came with him. Conrad Cummins came with him. And then not long after that, Jack Catterall rang me. So we started doing well with Carl and Martin. Martin had won a fight on the undercard to the World Boxing Series. Rocky Fielding had won the British title, and the Commonwealth title. So Carl had approached me. Then Jack Catterall came, approached me, asked me if I'd train him. Chantel Cameron come, and then just started to snowball. And now we've got 10 pro fighters, and there's a great atmosphere in the gym. And financially we're doing well out of it now. And yeah, so I mean, literally 3 years ago, if Tommy Coyle had turned round 6 months before that, I mean, saying that, I don't know, I'd have always helped Oliver out. There's no question. If he'd have said that to me, I'd have done it anyway. But I ended up in a position where the gym's just grown and grown. So, everything happens for a reason.
Absolutely, mate. It does, and that's the thing. Once one comes, it doesn't take long for like word of mouth to spread, and people see the fruits of your labours and all that, does it?
That's it. Yeah. So we've ended up 10 pro fighters, and the busiest gym in the country by the look of it. So like I say, I'm enjoying it. It's good. It's not like work.
Never work a day in your life, do you, mate? If you enjoy it. Right, pal. So obviously we spoke about you retiring, moving into the coaching. But as we've mentioned a few times, you've mentioned your kids, and that's what this podcast is mainly all about. Is about dads and being a dad and helping out other dads and stuff like that. So I was wondering if you could maybe just talk us over, like, what sort of struggles you might have ever been through as a dad. Particularly with whether it had been when you were a fighter or as a coach. Because I'd imagine you probably at times spend quite a bit of time away from home, whether it's training camps, fighting away from home, whatever it is, mate. Just anything like that.
Yeah. So I think one of the main ones is I was massively hands-on as a dad with the kids when he was young, because I could be. I was here a lot of the time. You're a fighter, so you're in the gym for a couple of hours a day, and then I've been blessed for the fact that I've always done the school run because I've been able to. My missus was working for the council in a different way than she is now. She was in the education department, so she was, a lot of the time she was gone to work before the kids went to school. So I've been lucky enough to be able to take my kids and pick them up from school all the way through school. And it's my kid, before he went to even primary school, was with me every day. I'd take him to the gym with me, being his car chair, and I'd carry him in and stuff like that. So God, I remember when he went to school for the first time, I cried my eyes out. The first day he went to, because he'd been with me every day for nearly 4 years.
Yeah.
And then I was, the only way I could describe it was, I said, I feel like I'm grieving, like I've lost him.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
One of the main things I struggled with was, because as a fighter you have to be really selfish. So for 6 weeks or 8 weeks before a fight, as soon as the kids were born, I started to go and sleep in a hotel in Bolton. So you know, by the time it got to 5, 6 o'clock, I'd be gone. And then I'd come back the next morning. So I'd go and sleep in an hotel and come back the next morning. So I never really got to put the kids to bed and stuff like that. So that was tough. But, you know, I can't really pinpoint a struggle as such.
Yeah.
Because I've been really lucky. I really have. I've been dead lucky in the fact that, you know, me and my missus, we've never had any problems. We're together, so, you know, I haven't got any struggles what a lot of dads have, where if they separate from the missus and, you know, they don't let them see the kids. I've been dead lucky in that sense. I've been really hands on, and I've had created loads of memories with my kids. So that's the main thing for me. I've been blessed.
Good, nice to hear, mate. Nice to hear. Right, so we're almost pretty much coming to the end now, and I do like to ask all the guests that I get on to give us a nice little funny or embarrassing story, mate. You know, just to show everyone who's listening that you've got a, you know, no matter who we are, what we've done, what we've achieved, we've all made a bit of a tit of ourselves at times, mate. So,
do you know what?
Yours, fire away.
Honestly, since you messaged me the other day, I'm wrecking my brains. I can't think of a funny story where I've embarrassed myself. I mean, obviously, aside from the fact that you can't walk in my gym without tying your bloody pants and getting D-bagged left, right and centre, of that, Tommy Coyle, here's one for you then. You know what he done to me? So, it was when I was out in Marbella training with Matt Macklin.
Yeah.
And everyone knows, if you come in our gym, if you ain't got your shorts tied, they're getting walloped down, no matter who's there. And so I'd got Tommy. So when we was over in Marbella, I was over training Matt Macklin in Marbella. Tommy came over for a few weeks, and I got him in the airport when he was coming out. So the week later, we've been for a coffee down the beach. We've been training. We've gone for a coffee down the beach. Sat down for an hour or so. Starts walking back along the beachfront, and it wasn't the middle of summer really. It was probably about April time. So the weather was lovely, but there wasn't that many people about. There was a lot of old people about, and there was 4 women, and I'm not kidding. They must be between 70 and 80 years old. And Tommy de-bagged me with my swimming shorts, right, and stood on him. So he's whipped me and stood on him. I'm stood there naked. There's these 4 women. They probably wanted the ground to swallow them up, and I couldn't. I'm trying to get my shorts back up, and he's just stood on them one line back up.
Brilliant.
So,
that's a cracker, that, mate. It's a good one.
I've got to be honest. I've done a few myself. Like, obviously over the years, you've seen everyone's seen the videos on social media. Yep. But I've done like a kipper in Marbella.
Well, fair play to him. Fair play to him. Obviously, I didn't have your wits about you at that moment in time.
I never ever leave the house without tying me shorts on my trackies now. It's just not worth the risk. I got Lee Hogan, actually, one of like the guys who works for Steve Wood. He comes in our gym all the time filming, and I got him and I said, Lee, you've been coming here for years now. Oh, yeah, tell me, as soon as anyone, the majority of the people, as soon as they get to our gym, they get out of the car, they tie their shorts or they tie the trackies. I said, come on, you've got to be more experienced than that, mate.
Nice. Right, mate, so before we wrap it up then, where can people find you online, mate? Where's your social media and they can check out what you're up to and what have you?
I'm Twitter and Instagram. I'm not on Facebook. Me and my missus have called it Divorce Book for years because it just seems like anyone who's on there gets divorced. So stayed well clear of that. But both Twitter and Instagram, I'm Jamie Moore 777. No underscores.
No underscores. Right, mate. Nice one. Right. I massively appreciate your time, mate. I know you're a busy guy, and obviously it's film night with your family tonight. So we'll wrap it up there, mate, and really appreciate your time. Thanks again for agreeing to come on, mate.
No problem at all. Anytime.
Take it easy, pal. I'll speak to you soon.